What I wanted to show you today is a neat trick I learned for learning the unit circle. What we're going to use is the hand trick. Now this is your left hand palm up. And we're going to label it like this. 0 degrees. Then we're going to go for 30 degrees. And then we'll hit 45 degrees, 60 degrees, and 90 degrees. So the reference angle for these degrees in quadrant 1 would be pi over 6 pi over 4 pi over 3 and pi over 2. In order to use this hand trick, we must place everything under the root sign divided by 2. And we must know that the left hand side is always your cosine side, and your right hand side will be your sine side. Let's begin with 0 degrees. So we're going to put our pinky down, and we're going to have 4 fingers on the cosine side and no fingers on the sine side. We're going to take these 4 fingers, put it inside the root sign, so you're going to have 4, so the root of 4 over 2, which the root of 4 is 2, so 2 over 2 is 1. So you would have 1 and 0 on the sine side. So we got 1 over, or 2 over 1, or 2, which is 1. Place that there on the cosine side. Then we have no fingers on the sine side, so we put a 0 for your sine side. Let us start with the 30 degree finger, your ring finger. So you're going to put your ring finger down. You're going to have 3 fingers on your cosine side. So you're going to put 3 in the root sign. So you're going to have the square root of 3 over 2. And you have 1 on your sine side. So you put 1 in the root sign. So you have the root of 1, which is 1. So 1 over 2 is 1/2. So we have our cosine, which is the square root of 3 over 2. And we have our sine side, which is 1/2. Make that a little bigger. Now the 45 degree finger. We'll put our finger down, which will leave us with 2 fingers on the cosine side and 2 fingers on the sine side. We're going to put 2 and then under the root sign over 2, so that'll be your cosine side. And again, we'll put 2 under the root sign over 2 for sine side, so that'll be the square roots of 2 over 2 for your cosine and the square root of 2 over 2 for your sine side. So we have for our cosine the square root of 2 over 2, and for our sine side, square root of 2 over 2. Now we'll start with the 60 degree. So put our finger down. We'll have 1 on the cosine side and 3 on the sine side. We'll put 1 under the root sign over 2. And the square root of 1 is 1, so 1/2 for cosine. And the square root of 3 over 2 for sine. So we have 1/2 for cosine, and then the square root of 3 over 2 for sine. Now we'll end quadrant 1 with our 90 degree finger, our thumb, and we'll have no fingers on the cosine side, and we'll have 4 fingers on the sine side. So we'll use the 4 fingers, place it under the square root. So the square root of 4 is 2, so 2 over 2 is 1. So we have 0 for cosine, and we'll have 1 for sine. One thing that we must remember, that is in quadrant 1, cosine and sine are both positive. In quadrant 2, cosine is negative, sine is positive. What is important to note is that quadrant 2 is a mirror image of quadrant 3 as far as the denominators. Now to find the reference angle for 2 pi over 3, we will look at pi over 3. We'll put our first finger down. We're left with 1 on the cosine and 3 on the sine side. We'll put the 1 in the square root. The square root of 1 is 1. You still have 1 over 2, so 1/2. This would be negative. And the 3 on the sine side would give you the square root of 3 over 2. So we have for cosine negative 1 over 2 and the square root of 3 over 2. Now to find the reference angle for 3 pi over 4, we will look at the 45-degree angle, pi over 4, where we put our middle finger down, and we're left with 2 on the cosine side and 2 on the sine side. So we will have the square root of 2 over 2 for both cosine and sine. And cosine, don't forget, would be negative. So we have for cosine negative square root of 2 over 2 and the square root of 2 over 2 for sine. Now for the 5 pi over 6, we'll look at the 30-degree angle. Pi over 6, we'll put our ring finger down. So we'll have 3 on the cosine side and 1 on the sine side. So the 3 is root 3 over 2 negative for cosine, and the root 1 over 2, which is 1/2 for sine. So for 5 square root of 6, we have negative square root of 3 over 2 and 1/2 for sine. Now to find the reference angle for 180 degrees or pi, we will use the 0 degree from quadrant 1. We'll put our pinky down. We have 4 for cosine and nothing for sine. So we would have the square root of 4 over 2, which is 2 over 2, which is 1. So it would be negative 1 for cosine and 0 for sine. Now for pi, we have negative 1 for cosine and sine is 0. Now we can use this hand trick to find the reference angles for both quadrant 3 and quadrant 4. What we should remember is that for quadrant 3, both cosine and sine are negative, and for quadrant 4, we have cosine positive and sine is negative. Now that you know how to use this hand trick to find the reference numbers, you can continue on to find the reference numbers for quadrant 3 and quadrant 4. As long as you remember to follow the denominators and what side is cosine, what side is sine, and to place the numbers on either side underneath the root over 2. I hope you have enjoyed this as much as I have putting it together. Thank you for your time.